This is a Star Wars Action News Hypercast.
Hey everybody, Andrew here, and welcome to our third Mando Monday. I hope everybody is enjoying the second season of Mandalorian as much as I am. And to celebrate that, I've been opening up some Mandalorian Hot Toys. I've done the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett, the holiday special animated version of Boba Fett, and today I'm going to do, you guessed it, Boba Fett. This one is, again, Empire Strikes Back, but this one is the special vintage coloring of Boba Fett. Last week I mentioned that I'm usually not a big fan of repaints, but we'll see what I think of this one. Last week's was a shocking surprise for me. I was stunned at how much I enjoyed it, and so we'll see if this one follows suit. Now this one is part of a 40th anniversary set that they're doing. They've got the Boba Fett, and they did Darth Vader. And the thing that's special with these is they come with a special in a special box, special packaging. As you can see, it is based on the vintage style packaging. It's got the racetrack around the outside. And this is interesting because it's got a window box. So you can actually see the figure inside the box, which is very different from what they've done in the past. As those of you who have been following my Hot Toys unboxings and reviews for a while now, you know that I'm not really a huge fan of their standard packaging. It's kind of boring on the outside. And while this is not necessarily jumping out at me, it is definitely a nice change. Something that's a little bit different. I think that the Cheer It box was definitely up there for one of my favorite packagings that they've done. And even on the back, they also have vintage style packaging. And I like on the sides, much like you'd see on the Kenner boxes back in the day, you'd see shots of the different different parts of the figure. So yeah, overall, I think this is a nice change to the packaging. I like that they did the window box. It really kind of makes it pop a little bit. Let's see how we actually open this. I'm not really sure at the moment. We've got some tape up here at the top. This is all new for me. I'm used to just being able to slide the top open, but this has a piece of tape. Aha, it just folds open just like that. With the window box, I wasn't really sure how that would work because it's kind of a double layer. It's got a thick layer of cardboard on top of another thick layer of cardboard, but then the flap is glued to another flap. All right, packaging. Always exciting when they do something different, which is very rare for Hot Toys on the Star Wars line. So there he is in the packaging itself. Really nice. Again, this is the vintage color. Goes along with the color of the style of the packaging. So it matches the paint schemes that Kenner used back when they first did the first version of Boba Fett to ever be made in plastic. And here he is. Already you get that immediate sense of nostalgia when you see these colors. The bright yellow against the bluish gray. Of course, the dark green. Same style cape it looks like, with a nice stripe on the back through the middle. Right there. Ragged like the others. so far it looks like they basically took what they had for The Empire Strikes Back and just did a literal repaint. There are 3 braids this time, unlike the animated style, which only had the 1. And you've got the holster on the side back here behind the pouches. Viewfinder moves, of course. Not nearly as exciting as the animated colors. I think it's probably because they're a little muted, which makes sense. I mean, they're going for that animated color, or the vintage color. So it makes sense that they would be a little muted because that's how that vintage Kenner figure was. See if I can get you to stand up, Boba. There we go. 5 sets of standard hands, just like usual. Nothing too exciting to write home about. You've got your standard blaster pistol. Now this is where I'm a little disappointed that they didn't give us a different accessory for the blaster. It would have been really nice if they had done something more along the lines with the vintage blaster. Something that's just straight black, really chunky. I think that would have been really neat. Again, here's that holster that is kind of a pain to use because they don't use magnets like they use in some of their holsters. They use a little pin, which then goes up and over and to the side. And you have to try to line up the pin with the hole. And since there's a gun on the other side, you can't just push it through. So I'm just going to let gravity hold it in place like I did with the Empire one. All right, let's see. We've got our little weapons that again go in his pants. Of course, down in the bottom here is the Jetpack rocket launcher. Standard, just like the other ones with the pivoting thrusters. Exact same mold it looks like. We'll get them side by side once I get everything set up here, and we'll see if there are any minor differences. But on the whole, very, very similar. Okay, here's the stand. If I can get it out. There we go. Very standard plating for the stand. We've seen this on other Star Wars figures before. Very, very, very standard. The difference here is that it does have the same color scheme. It's that grayish blue, like the helmet and his jumpsuit. There's the rest of the stand. Snaps in there. One thing I noticed that is also really fun about this is something that I usually don't point out in my unboxings, but I'm going to in this case because they went to the extra length to do something special with the instructions, so I'm going to call that out. If you go the extra mile, I'll give you the credit for it. Vintage style instruction book. How neat is that? Uh-oh. And not only do you have the instructions, but on the other side, you've got a little poster. Look at that. The Empire Strikes Back. The Star Wars saga continues. Again, very reminiscent of the Kenner vintage figures. Really cool. I love that they did that. That's a neat little detail that I was not expecting to see. All right. Well, overall, a fun figure. For those of you who are big into the vintage line from Kenner, this is probably going to be a must-have for you because it is so reminiscent and so nostalgic of that one. I wish that the gun was also vintage style, but I love the detail that they put into the instruction manual. And the color scheme looks spot on to what that vintage figure was. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this off, and then I'm going to pull down my other Boba Fett figures that I've got, and we'll do a quick comparison. And so I'll be right back. All right, so here we are. We've got 3 Boba Fetts based on Empire Strikes Back. 3 very similar. I've opened all of these within the last 3 weeks. First off, we did the standard Empire Strikes Back one, then of course the animated, and then today is the vintage coloring. They are all almost identical in sculpt. There are a few variations in the gauntlets I noticed between the animated and the other 2. Other than that, they appear to be exactly the same sculpts, just repainted. So you do get that variation with the animated version as opposed to the standard and the vintage collection. Other than that, they are the same figure. So altogether, these are really fun, especially if you're a Boba Fett fan. If you're not so much into the Fett, then I think that just one would do if you feel like you need to have one in your collection. No need to get the other ones. If I had to pick one of these Boba Fetts to have, considering I already had the Return of the Jedi, which I think is amazing just because of the stand itself, I would probably go with the animated version just because of that coloring. Although, I will say that the original look of Boba Fett is iconic. Those colors are fantastic. The weathering that they put into his armor is great. You don't get that at all with the vintage style because this is like a Kenner figure right out of the box. Never been played with, never taken out to the sandbox. It's just got some slight weathering where there are dents in the armor, which probably only exist because they're using the same mold as the original Empire figure. And so they had to paint that as such to make it look like there's a reason that there's a dent there. Other than that, it's very, very plain. Not a lot of weathering. There's a little bit to speak of, again, like I said, just to give it some depth really, but nothing compared to the paint detail that's on that original, or even the animated, which has some grime painted onto it. So these are really fun. I've had a good time opening up these figures. Hopefully this is not going to be the last Mando Monday that I'm going to be doing. I've got several Mandalorian figures that are supposedly coming within the next few weeks. I've already gotten some notices, though, that some of the figures from the first season of Mandalorian have been pushed back to December, so I know those will not be coming early November, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not really sure. A lot is up in the air with shipping right now, as many of you know, but hopefully we'll get those in and we can review those and unbox those for you as well. So that's it for now. If you've got any questions, let us know in the comments. And other than that, we'll hopefully see you next week. See you guys.
Thanks for watching. Please check out some of our other videos. And you can hear hundreds of Star Wars collecting podcasts and see photo galleries at our site, swactionnews.com.